Hi guys, this is Nadia Hilker. I'm playing Magna on The Walking Dead, and you guys are listening to The Walking Dead Talks Through. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast, and I'm sending all my love. Bye!
Hello, my name is Cassie McClincy. I play Lydia on The Walking Dead, and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. Yeah!
Hey there guys, I'm Callan McAuliffe and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through on Talk Through Media.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Survivors, and welcome to another fine episode of The Walking Dead Talk Through. I'm Brian.
And I'm Mark.
And for tonight, which is episode 105, we bring you Season 10, Episode 6, titled Bonds. But before we get started, we want to alert you to a few things going on. This hasn't been a very good week for Talk Through Media. So... we discovered that, and you may not even hear this, but hopefully the problems have been resolved. But we got a tip a couple of days ago that there was a problem on some podcast clients, and it had to do with our old feed, which was turned off. And for some reason, certain podcast apps, even though we did what's called the technical jargon for it, it's called a 301 redirect. We had issues with that on certain podcast clients where it was still hitting the old feed and it was picking up the new feed, but it wasn't like keeping it as... It was still trying to hit the old feed first. So we were able to correct that today. So hopefully the bulk of issues that were happening have been resolved. So you may have gotten in, if you were one of those people, like, for example, TuneIn was one of those apps. Stitcher was one of those apps. And several others. We haven't even completely uncovered all of them yet. But then something I noticed is after we changed that also screwed up some other podcast clients, like, for example, Spotify. It went back, at least on the Discovery feed, went back to a couple of old episodes that weren't it wasn't current anymore. So we're going to keep working on this. Really apologize. So if you've gotten just a bunch of episodes, maybe like 103, 104, 105, we apologize. We'll tell you if you notice that happen in the past, please send us an email to walkingdead@talkthroughmedia.com and let us know so we can be proactive about it. We will release episodes every week during this season. So if you happen to notice this happen and there's a gap, like if the episode hasn't hit, say, by the Sunday of the next episode, that's probably indicates that there's a problem. So because you should have gotten it by that point. And anyway, so just wanted to let you know. We also had a denial of service attack, which that basically means that someone, I figure, was probably a Discovery hater. Anyway, there was a bot that was hitting our website pretty hard, and it may have been as a result of trying to fix these feeds. It could have been the podcast, our podcast company, like where we host the podcast files. It's a company called Castos. They could have been down. I haven't heard anything to say that were down, but for whatever reason, I got a message late last night from our hosting provider, which is a different company, letting us know that we were basically taking the site down, and they were going to take the site down until they were able to determine the issue. So it was down, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 hours. When I went to bed, it was down, and then when I woke up this morning, it was fixed. So, but man, I tell you, it hasn't been easy. And the funny thing is, to fix the other problem, we actually had to spend some money to get that fixed. So, not great news. But all I'll say to you, listeners, thank you for your patience. It's just, there are certain hiccups that we thought had already been resolved, but you know how the web goes, not always the case. So hopefully we've addressed most of the problems. We're trying to also get listed on some additional podcast apps that we weren't on before. So, and we're doing things like we're creating a Walking Dead only feed. So in other words, like in the past on this feed, you probably got The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. I have created a Walking Dead only feed. So once we have that listed on other podcast clients, we'll let you know. But yeah, so various things that we're doing to try to resolve certain issues and make it easy for you to listen to us. But one thing that we have is we have a Talk Through Media all-inclusive feed. That's what it's called. And that gives you the Walking Dead Talk Through, Fear the Walking Dead Talk Through, the Star Trek Discovery podcast, and the Star Trek Picard cast. And if you listen to all of those, that's probably the best feed to get. And because that's a brand new feed, that hasn't been affected by any of these issues. So hopefully all of that stuff should still be working. So whatever podcast client you look for, search for us. Hopefully we'll be there. And if we are there, and if you listen to both both Walking Dead and Star Trek podcasts, that's probably your best thing going forward. And with that, normally we would get into feedback from last week. We didn't get any. So no need to talk about that. Let's go right into this week's episode. And anyway, thank you for your patience with everything. Our listeners are such an important part of this podcast, and it's frustrating when we have these issues. And we've got new episodes, and some of you may have not even known. You thought we, took a break or something, but we didn't. So anyway, season 10, episode 6 is titled Bonds. Every time I hear that, I think of WXYZ anchor for many years, Bill Bonds, which anyone that's from the Detroit area, that's who I think of. And I think he was actually national for a little while, but
yeah, he was.
Yeah. He got a long way for a guy that had a broken nose and a really bad toupee.
That's true.
Yeah, you remember him? Yeah.
I'd hear him on AM radio.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Anyway, famous anchor from Detroit. That is written by Bonds is written by co-producer new to The Walking Dead this year, Kevin Diebolt, I believe it's his name. And I looked him up on IMDb, and he's got writing credits from a bunch of shows that I've never really heard of. Well, one I kind of heard of, but I don't know anything about it. Borgia, Copper, which is the one I've heard of, but know nothing about it. And Kevin Probably Saves the World. And this is his first credit on The Walking Dead. Previous to that, he was a writer's assistant, or there's different terms for it, but script coordinator, for example, producer's assistant, writer's assistant. On Ed, which I've definitely heard of, The Bedford Diaries, MONY, and The Philanthropist. So the only one I've really heard of is Ed. Out of all those, but he's been around a little while. So directed by a name that I definitely recognize, Dan Liu, I think is how you say it, or Liu. It's Liu. And he has been around for quite a while on The Walking Dead, mostly as an editor, but this is his third episode of The Walking Dead that he's directed. He directed Some Guy, which season 8, episode 4, Warning Signs, season 9, episode 4, and this episode, season 10, episode 6, Bonds. He's also directed 2 episodes of Fear, The Walking Dead, Good Out Here, which I believe was the episode that Nick died, and the controversial episode, which you either loved or hated, from this season, season 5, episode 9, channel 4. That was the found footage one. So the description is Carol and Daryl go on a mission together while Sadiq struggles to solve a mystery. And thank goodness, a little inside baseball, that is the sound effect that gave us all sorts of problems last week. Thankfully, it's working now. So, all right. So, Mark, what did you give this episode?
I gave it 9 out of 10 frowny McTwo-knives. And if nobody knows what that means, it's what Negan called Beta in the comic book that we never got in the episode.
Well, we'll probably hear that next week. I won't be surprised. All right. Well, I'm going to give this episode 9 whisperers flying around commando style. Because.
Are you kidding me?
All right. We've got some ratings from our listeners. Mark, why don't you start?
Steve from Oklahoma City gives it 9.25 out of 10 britches tightening.
Dieta from Detroit says, I rate this episode 9 out of 10 Jolly Green Giants and Negan monologues. No, not the monologues. Frowny face, ugh face. I guess she calls it ugh face, so I guess ugh face.
Well, LT from NC says, giving this one 9.5 out of 10 longer tape measures.
And Glynis from Toronto gives it 8.5 out of 10 working 9 to 5 with Whisperer Walkers or Bana benefits. All right, let's move on to Awesome Sauce.
Megan from Pennsylvania says, the Strasburg, PA, shout out. She says, we went to the Railroad Museum last year and it's absolutely fantastic. And blackberry raspberry ice cream is a classic rural Pennsylvanian ice cream stand staple. Yum, yum.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Dieta from Detroit says, Negan surviving the Walker horde when Beta left him surrounded, leaving him for dead. But who comes waltzing out with the bat monologuing? Negan. Well, it was, I'm going to call this one Lucille 2.5.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah, because it's not quite a bat, but it certainly was bat. It had the dimensions of a bat.
It looked like a log with some barbed wire on it.
Yeah.
Well, Glennis from Toronto says, Daryl covering himself with walker guts while holding that walker in a headlock to hide from the advancing whisperers and walkers. In all the Walking Dead seasons, Daryl hasn't been around, so hadn't had the need to do that, unlike Rick and company in Season 1, Episode 2, in Atlanta when he first met Glenn and Andrea and company, and then more recently in season 6, episode 8 and 9, when again Rick, Jesse, Michonne, Carl, Gabriel, Ron, Sam, and Judith covered themselves in walker guts to make their escape when Alexandria was surrounded by walkers.
Yeah, and Michonne did it too, although I think accidentally. Didn't she get like a bunch of guts on her stomach or something?
Yeah.
One time? I can't remember when that was from. Might have been last season? I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah. Steve from Oklahoma City says Daryl and Carol buddy copping it in search of Alpha's horde. All right. Let's do our own awesome sauce, Mark.
Well, one of my awesome sauces would be the conversation with Eugene and the lady on the radio. I'm hoping to see more of this, and we will discuss this a little bit more later. My second part would be Negan and his initiation into the Whisperers, or his tests, that would be, to see if he's worthy. I love the music montage of him and Beta with the big skin versus little skin to see who's is better. And I love how Negan tries to unwrap it to make it look a little bit bigger than Beta's, which it was far from.
Well, I don't have anything written down for awesome sauce, but I'm going to give one right off the top of my head, and that's to Carol for her bold plan, because I'm pretty sure that she took that guy and it was planned. She just didn't want to tell Daryl that. But I am going to make a bold prediction that we're going to find out that Negan was released by Carol. That to me makes the most sense. That's why she was supposedly looking for Negan. She probably knew that Negan's intention was to try to team up with them. And I firmly believe that in the end of this, Negan is, trying to work his way in, which he's doing the opposite of whispering, which is kind of funny, yet he's still getting in there. But that he is there not to join up with them, but to destroy them. So he's going to get close, and as soon as he gets close, he's going to probably kill Alpha, or could kill Beta. We'll see, but I imagine, or he could do both. I have a feeling, though, it's going to be more like he's going to kill Beta, setting up Carol to kill Alpha. That's what I'm waiting for. We'll see. Either way, I think those two are teaming up. All right, so let's move. This is just me predicting. I don't know this for sure. All right, let's move on to weak sauce. And I definitely have some weak sauce.
You're worthless and weak.
Well, Megan from Pennsylvania says, it's pretty clear they're going to say the mystery illness is caused by drinking the water that Gamma poisoned with walker guts. So I'm going to draw on my urban planning and infrastructure knowledge and call
Bullshit! 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 Bullshit!
Oops. Okay, that was intentional. I put it in a loop.
Yep, she's going to call that on this one. A community like Alexandria that appears to be out of the woods and away from any towns would most likely have a private well system. Probably a small community-sized well rather than individual on lot wells. Either type of system could still work since they have electricity. Those pumps for a small system would not take a ton of energy.
Yeah. She's got more to say on this, so I'm going to wait.
Oh, yeah. She continues on saying, since Alexandria was said to have been built right before the ZA started, the well should be in good shape for decades. They should not have to drink surface water sources.
Interesting.
I'm guessing they'll come up with some half-assed explanation like the people who didn't get sick were boiling their water as a precaution. Always a good idea, by the way, and others did not.
Mm-hmm. And just to what she said, I remember them saying that they had a cistern there.
Yes.
Which, and Megan, you would probably know this better based on, I know what kind of job you have. Is a cistern not a way of storing and collecting water, like, for example, rainwater? That's how I've understood it. I may be wrong, and I'm sure I'll hear about it if I'm wrong from either you or whoever else. But if I look up cistern, and of course, that's how I roll. So I'm definitely going to look up cistern. Yes, a waterproof receptacle for holding liquids, usually water, often built to catch and store rainwater. Yes, so I am right.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of examples where it looks like something underneath, like a church or something, according to the pictures that I'm seeing on the search from Google. Yeah, and in fact, Wikipedia has a bunch of things that look like, it's a Portuguese system, this first one, in Morocco. But it's very, like, church-like. But anyway, cistern, yes. Continue.
They also may tie it to non-consumptive uses where people may be exposed to a pathogen, such as watering gardens, washing produce, laundry, showering, etc. And she goes, I'm looking forward to how they explain it away for sure. And I think this is what Megan does.
Yeah.
She knows all these things. She's very active in that. So for the person to know about this, Megan's the one to go to.
Yeah. In fact, I would say that Megan would be a good consultant for The Walking Dead on such things. Dieta from Detroit has a similar kind of point, at least. Actually, it's not specific to that, but it is kind of related, because we know that the person that saw these guts being spilled into the water table was Aaron. So she asks, is Aaron still out looking for Negan roaming in the woods? He didn't think he needed to come back and report what he saw the Whisperer doing to the water. He didn't put two and two together. Now the whole Alexandria is getting sick and he's out handing out bandages. Mad face. And yeah, to me, this is the big issue that I had with the episode. And, I don't know if it was a question of like a deleted line or something like that, but it is, of course, Aaron that could kind of not just explain this, but say, hey, don't drink the water. I saw them do this. And like, it's something that LT, I think, mentioned last week about, that's like a standard siege thing, is to, taint the water supply. But I totally agree. Like, where is Aaron in this? He should have gone back to Alexandria, or if he was closer to Hilltop, he should have run to Hilltop, got on the radio, like told Eugene to get off the radio if he was there, and tell them that he saw the Whisperers do this. Because to me, this is the issue. Like, aside from what Megan said, and I agree with all of what she said, like, why are they not purifying the water? You would think that this would be a really big problem that they would have to deal with, like, on a regular basis, and yet nothing. So this was a big issue for me, both in the fact that they weren't already doing something with the water supply. Like they're just drinking the water like raw. Like you don't do that.
They can't do that.
They obviously didn't watch Survivor All-Stars.
Or they didn't see Negan when he drank the pond water and he got sick.
Yeah, well,
that puddle water.
He started to, but I don't think he drank it too much of it.
No, but even still, he realized right away he can't be doing that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also really funny how some people are getting sick, but like Dante and Sadiq aren't getting sick. Strangely enough, the medical personnel are not getting sick. The baby didn't get sick, and you'd think that she would get sick because
the breast milk.
The breast milk, yeah. I don't know. I don't know the biology there. Maybe that's not transmitted through the breast milk, but you would still like if not even that, like just using the same water that she's drinking. It just. I don't know. It seems to me, and of course they're making it worse, right? Because they're trying to keep them hydrated. So it's like, oh, give them more water. Yeah, here, take more of this poison water. You know, and they're not like, I don't know. It seems to me like they should be, putting iodine tablets in there, or okay, maybe iodine tablets. Maybe they ran out. They probably didn't run out of iodine. Or they could find iodine. I don't know. Mine iodine. Okay, I'm reaching.
Yeah.
But, I just, to me, this is the weak point. Like, it was definitely dramatic, but some of it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, boiling the water, treating the water, you would think that they would have to do this. Like this would be like step one of creating a community in the apocalypse. I mean, you got zombies that are rotting flesh and carrying diseases. Heck, we know that they are because that's how Gabriel lost his eye. Yeah. It maybe not be zombie, the zombie virus that they're drinking, but they're drinking all sorts of other. I imagine with their rotting flesh, they've got contagions from the rotting flesh. They've probably got like poop all over themselves. 10-year-old poop. Anyway, you get my point. Let's move on.
Well, Glynis from Toronto says, couldn't quite catch a specific sentence Carol uttered to Daryl, and I replayed it over a few times and turned up the volume that she said just before she stood up and left Daryl to rifle through her bag.
Do we know what she said?
Not really. I don't remember. I guess if no, she didn't say frisk me. She didn't say that until after he went through her bag.
Yeah, I mean, we knew, like, I could tell that Daryl was going to go through her things. And obviously, she did something kind of shady to take the stuff out of her bag, or she didn't have it in her bag, Yeah. So last one, Steve from Oklahoma City. He says, according to a brief web search, it takes a couple of days to cook a pig in the ground, not hours. Of course, time is relative in this universe. Well, yes, time is relative in this universe. Like, for example, sorry, I was going to use the fall asleep and wake up in Mississippi example, but that's the wrong show. All right, Mark, what did you have for weak sauce?
Well, I found it weak that Daryl was duped by Carol and he didn't find the huge police zip tie. I guess he should have frisked her in the end anyway.
Yeah. All right, so I had just one additional weak sauce from this. And this is a cautionary tale because I hate to say it, this is something that I fell into myself before I met my wife and all that stuff. I was very much in love with someone, and I couldn't just let it go. I was Eugene. Okay. And it was a similar kind of thing where, I would just be, just waiting in the background, hoping that someday she would, finally, convert me from the friend column to the significant other column. And it never happened. And it was a similar kind of thing. Like Rosita kind of does this here. She's like, are you going to be coming back soon? And that, hopefully Eugene doesn't fall into this pit, but it's kind of like, I don't think she, of course, means to, but she's kind of leading him on, and hopefully this woman that he started talking to over the 1-900 chat lines, specific, sorry, that's just, reminds me of things from 20 years ago, like date lines and stuff, but or instant messenger friends. Anyway, where this person may finally get his attention away from Rosita, but don't do this. Like, I don't mean to make this like, a he and a she thing, or, it can be either gender, no gender involved, whatever. If party A is in love with party B, but party B is never going to be in love with party A, don't lead them on. Don't do things like what she just did. Like, to me, and I'm saying this based on experience, you're kind of giving him a chance. It's like Dumb and Dumber. So you say there's a chance. It's, that's what's going on here. So anyway, all right. So let's move on to the what sauce.
What?
All right. So Steve from Oklahoma City says, the show has made me like seeing Negan. I can't wait to find out what happens with him going forward. What?
What?
And Megan from Pennsylvania also mentioned something about the pig, which you just mentioned. Did they gut the pig before they cooked it in the pit? It looked like it still had the hide with the hair on. Gross. And it's funny, Megan, I wondered that myself. So I don't know what's going on with that, but
I have information for you at the end in my notes.
Okay, good. What did you have for what sauce?
Well, what is with Negan being so loud? This is not just what sauce, this is obvious sauce, but they hate him already. Yeesh. Be quiet, Negan.
Well, some of them hate him, but yeah, he's like the anti-whisperer.
Yeah.
Yeah, not exactly, he says he's on the program or whatever, but he's not exactly whispering. He's not exactly a good doppelganger for a walker, but I don't have anything specific for what sauce, although I kind of mentioned some other stuff already that could have been what sauce, and I think I have something in sad sauce that can fit for this as well. But here we go with sad sauce.
Aww.
And we didn't get any sad sauce from our listeners, so I guess there wasn't anything too sad. So, but we've got a few. Mark?
Yeah, it was sad to see the look of disappointment on Negan's face when they didn't know who he was. It was kind of sad and shocking to him. I guess he's just a legend in his own mind.
A legend in his own mind. Yes.
And plus, it's sad that two of the people that were originally on the Pikes in the comics are getting sick now in the show.
Yeah. I saw you posted that in the comments here, and I thought of something similar, like Rosita and Ezekiel both were among the victims that were killed on the Pikes, and
in the comic, yeah.
And I think there's still a few others that are, with that. But to that, I kind of mentioned this as well. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. Rosita is never going to see Eugene again, or should I say vice versa. Eugene will never see Rosita again. She's dead. Ezekiel, I don't think Ezekiel's going to make it with this cancer, even though even this person on the radio may be in some settlement that has a hospital. And yes, we have chemotherapy and all this stuff. We can treat them. They'll find that out 2 days before 2 days after he dies or something. Or he'll be too far gone. And obviously the old lady, she is, she's gone. She may snap Dante like a twig, but I think she's not long for this world. And there are definitely some others that are susceptible to this. I kind of worry about Dante a little bit, and I worry about Sadiq. I wonder if either of them could die. I wonder about Coco at this point. Gabriel, where the hell's he been the last few episodes?
Yeah.
Michonne, obviously, she's probably gonna die. We know that the characters, that Denai Guerrero is leaving the show, so she could end up dying. I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of weeks we're talking about this mid-season finale, and it's just a laundry list, just like the penultimate episode last year, the calm before, and we have to talk about 10 people dying. I don't know if we're going to see that, but I have a feeling that either that episode or episode 9, we're going to see some deaths. All right, let's move on with our feedback section.
We can talk about it. Done talking. Time to listen.
All right, so let's move on with voicemail. We've got one from our good friend, Steve.
Hello, Walking Dead Talk Through. This is Steve, and I feel like I need to watch this episode again because I feel like I missed something. I watched it twice, and I don't know if my head just wasn't in it or what, but I feel like I missed something there. But I absolutely love the interaction between Beta and Negan. I love that Negan is kind of taunting Beta, and at the same time, Beta just isn't having it. He doesn't like him, and all the things that he's the way he's treating Negan. And the show, as I said in my wet sauce, it's surprised me that the show has kind of made me like is too strong a word for it, but has made me start to tolerate Negan and piqued my interest in what they're going to do with him. I love what Samantha Morton is doing with the character of Alpha. I feel this season she's really had a chance to do something more with the character that she didn't get last season. Last season, it was almost like just kind of a one note kind of thing. Maybe not one note, but really she didn't get a lot of chances to do anything really cool with the character. And I feel like she's taken on this kind of lioness persona, and that's the sniffing of Negan there at the end, and then shushing him was great. And I liked Carol and Daryl's kind of interaction, even though there's back and forth. It was kind of a back and forth kind of thing as far as whether he trusts her fully, but you can definitely see that they have a partnership there that and a friendship that goes beyond more than just hunting zombies. So anyway, can't wait to hear what you guys thought. Talk to you later.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. As usual, Oklahoma City can be proud of you. Feedback to us and being such a great listener. Yes, I agree that Beta and Negan Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Ryan Hurst are really good on screen together, but they're kind of like oil and water. Don't quite mix. I thought it was funny, and I think a lot of people are kind of in this boat because Dieta, I think, said similar things. It was either later on this week or last week where she said she could almost like Negan. So it seems that that's true. And like it took me a long time to really get on the Negan train, but I'm there, and I've been there for a while now, but I think it's funny, all those behaviors, all those mannerisms were really annoying in season 7, and they're really effective now,
Yeah.
It's like, because it's more comedic, and it's also like this guy is, walking right into the wolf's den, or the lion's den is what I meant to say. Walking into the lion's den, and yet he's not trying to be, timid. He's just like I said, he's the anti-whisperer, and it's funny, but he gets it done, and somehow he still impresses Alpha. And I noticed something that I don't have in my notes, but just thinking about it, something that was said on Talking Dead. Samantha Morton talks about this, that she thinks that Beta is jealous, and I don't know specifically she meant jealous of Negan or jealous of Alpha. I think it's more, maybe both, but I think that he may be threatened a little bit by this new guy. It reminds me of that meme, and I'm sure everyone who's listening to this knows that meme where you got this young guy, and he's holding the hands of this, his girlfriend or fiance or whatever, and this other girl walks by and he's checking her out. And, it's kind of like what's going on with this right now. It's like, Alpha is the guy. And Negan's walking by, and she's holding Beta's hand, and she's checking out Alpha. Or Negan, sorry. Alpha's checking out Negan. I thought of that during the episode. So, all right. And you mentioned about one note Alpha, and I wrote down, I'm not sure I agree. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I definitely agree that she was one note the first few episodes, because I remember talking about this in season 9. I was really annoyed by her the first 4 or 5 episodes. But by the penultimate, I think, episode, it may have been earlier than that, but I know definitely by the calm before, she was starting to win me over as a villain. So I don't think that she has been one note, but she started out one note. I got a kick out of her shushing Negan. It's kind of something that Negan needed. And you mentioned back and forth on Carol and Daryl, and I have something to say about that in my notes. All right, so let's move on. That's the only voicemail we got this week.
All right, well, we got some feedback from LT from NC. And LT says, I enjoyed watching Carol gearing up to head out, and the long look she gave the Lizzie gun in her underwear drawer. The cut over to Daryl sitting on the porch was so classic, since he is the one person who suspects what Carol is up to, and is the one person in town who will call her out on it. I fully enjoyed the interaction between them, and that Daryl can tell she's up to something, even if she won't tell him initially. Jumping forward, the field expedient gut wash Daryl pulled off is bringing back more of the old school badass, and Carol putting the grab on the Whisperer really helps set the stage for next week. Eugene and the radio. You guys called it on the Russian radio components. It's funny that Rosita misses him after friend zoning him so hard, but it's not shocking since she has been doing it to him even back in the Abraham era, and I do agree with that. And the difference is he finally had enough and left. He's moved on. Then we have the unknown girl on the radio. While I hope this will lead to the next big thing plot-wise, the suspicious viewer in me is looking at "don't tell anyone" clause in the conversation as a bad thing. Yeah, I get security and you never know who is listening to you. Right, Morgan? But it just seems like this is going to be a potentially bad portent.
And I'll just stop you right there and say, yep, I fully believe that I am Eugene with a Canadian accent at this point. Although I don't say as many crazy things, but there's so many parallels here to my own life. Because that's similar to what I did. I finally one day, I left Toronto to move to Cleveland, and I basically stopped talking to this person and moved on, got a new girlfriend, and rest is history. That's not who I ended up marrying, but I had a long-term relationship with her, and we're still friends. So, but so similar kind of thing, because it was the same thing with this woman. So, it's just funny. All right, let's move on.
He continues on saying, the Alexandria flu. Well, I guess they don't have a water filter after all. Maybe I've been a scouter for too long, but the first thing I suspect if someone suddenly gets sick is the water. We have 2 episodes left before the break, so this is for sure a big mid-season cliffhanger build-up. Is it just me that the things Dante is running that razor edge between flirty and cringy? Oh, I agree.
Yes, he is.
Sadiq and the PTSD is another huge reveal in waiting, and I'm going to say he was coerced to round up or help pick the Pike people. Wow.
Yeah, you may be true. You may be right on that. And Dante, especially flirting with the old lady. But I will say this. Him like tickling the tickling Coco and Sadiq's like boundaries. It's like, what was wrong with what he was doing? I thought it was cute.
Same here.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just that he gets that, what I think is Dante's a freak. Not to quote somebody from the movie Black Knight. So he continues on saying, Negan and Beta, man, oh man, that whole thing was so good. From the blindfold to gag, Negan riffing about going commando, the skinning, and the peg. Guess we have another tribal tactical decision by the Whispers to do an underground roaster. It won't draw walkers, it won't make too much smoke, and hides the scent so as to not draw survivors. Poor Negan has had no luck at all this season with knives. I agree with that. I noticed that right away this episode. And when he walks into the camp with that bloody limb in his hand, I think he proved that he is had to get rid of. I mean, come on. He survived getting his throat cut already. And maybe he's playing alpha, but that was so well written and acted. I won't say it just so as to not belabor the point, but you guys know what I'm thinking about writing.
I had it slipped my mind about him surviving the getting his throat cut like that. So I would agree.
Yeah.
I'll just finish it up because he addresses me here. He says, so many things in the air, so many setups in play, This has been a pleasure to watch, and it's getting me back on the wagon for sure. As a sidebar comment, Brian, maybe we need to look at the parrot numbers. Since live viewership is down, maybe more folks are watching it on AMC Premiere. Since the show drops earlier, I have to say that this is some of the best I've seen in a long, long time. Yeah, the parrots, they have something called demand expressions. That's what they call it. And what they do is they measure interest on the web, like through social media, like Facebook, public things that can be scanned on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and other, social networks. And they do what's, like they say, called demand expressions. And they release that information. It, largely goes out to big, media firms, but they do release their numbers, although sometimes I find it really hard to find them. And we know, like on the Trek side, Larry Nemeczek, Dr. Trek, as he's called, and I know him, and actually, Ruthie met him this summer, because they were both at SoonerCon, and Larry helped get her a press pass. Anyway, he works. He talks about Star Trek every Tuesday on Facebook, and he brings up the parrot analytics every week. So I need to figure out. I'll talk to him and figure out where he gets that from. If he has to subscribe to it or whatever, because it would be worth seeing. Because I was listening to Aim for the Head, and Steve on there mentioned that some other podcasts, I'm not sure what other podcasts he was talking about, but supposedly maybe 3 or 4 million people are watching it via AMC Premiere. I don't know where he got that number, and I don't know. I think this is like third hand. I heard this, so I'm prefacing all that because I did not hear this myself. This is, second or third hand, but I could see it being a fairly large number, maybe 50% of the existing number, maybe more, maybe, those are getting, counted in the Live Plus 3 and the Live Plus 7. I don't know. Because certain things are counted in the Nielsen, what's called Live Plus 3 and Live Plus 7. And what that means is when you say plus 3 and plus 7, people are watching the show within 3 days or within 7 days. And that could be like on demand or it could be online or whatever. It just depends on whether or not Nielsen's counting it or not. So those numbers go up every, like by 50 or 60% usually. So anyway, bottom line, I don't know if the AMC Premiere numbers are being counted. I know like Mark and I know some other podcasters that watch it that way. And I love the fact that I can like watch it a couple of days ahead of time because that helps me prepare. Even though my notes were kind of crappy this time. But I can, sit there and think about the show, and I can do it with, like a clearer head, so I love it. I don't have to like be like, and this week I wasn't home even when, The Walking Dead came on at 9 p.m. I was busy running errands. I didn't get back until like a couple of minutes into Talking Dead. But anyway, I really like having it. It's not that expensive. I usually drop it when it's out of season. It's worth it for me. I don't know if it's worth it for everybody, but it's worth it for me. I know, Mark, you like it as well. So.
Oh yeah. I get to watch it on Friday night, and then I'll watch it again on Saturday morning, and then I'll do a live watch with everybody else that, on the thread that we do with the Zhead thread. Yeah. All right, so let's move on. Next is Dieta from Detroit. She says, Negan talking and talking, driving Beta crazy.
He was the loudest one there in the group of whisperers, and it was driving Beta crazy. Yes, definitely. Rolling on the floor, laughing. Hilarious, she says. Watching Negan struggle with one walker and Beta tossing two over his shoulder, the look on Negan's face was priceless. Laughing, crying face, laughing, crying face. This episode was definitely comical. Yes, I agree with you, Dieta. There was a lot of laughter, specifically the Negan moments. I thought were pretty funny. Some of the Dante stuff as well, and even Eugene. So there was definitely some hilarity. She says, so I'm guessing everybody we didn't see is still out looking for Negan, i.e. Gabriel and Aaron. Yeah, I wonder that myself. Aaron, you've got some splaining to do. So no water filtration system like we thought. I'm still not quite understanding how the water would be that contaminated just from putting a couple dead in the water. I mean, if they did more of camera, maybe. I think that's what is she trying to say there? I think they did more. There's a typo in your feedback, Dieta, so I'm going to try to say this one. I think what you're trying to say is, I mean, if they did more, maybe. Also, why wouldn't you boil the water before consuming it anyways? From what we have seen, there are always dead in the water. Shrug, and I owe a couple of shrugs from earlier. Carol and Daryl together is always an episode pleaser. I love when they grace my screen. Carol is plotting Alpha's demise, and really, there should be more people on board, Daryl included. I'm sorry, Daryl. Once Carol sets her mind to something, you cannot stop her. Sadiq's PTSD is causing him to sleepwalk. I'm really starting to worry he is going to lose it completely. I'm not sure if that will be a good thing or bad. Eugene has a new friend, but from here, Fear the Walking Dead?
What? That's not true. That's impossible.
I don't think so. And then she says, shrug, thinking face. This Negan and the Whispers episode was hilarious. I don't know if it was supposed to come off that way, but I truly enjoyed it. Although I kept getting a little Negan PTSD taking me back to season 7. Shrug, laughing, crying face. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. There were some moments there where I was thinking of like, little pig, let me in. Of course, that was last week, but just, seeing him do his lean back and all of that. But I strangely didn't have the same reaction to it. So, like I say, it's more on our side, I think. I think that's probably why I'm not reacting to it as much. All right. So let's, you're going to take the next couple, which aren't too long.
Yep.
Then we'll kind of split the last one.
So Sonia from the internet says, I didn't love this episode. I thought Carol and Daryl going out alone was a bit much, and I know she did it on her own with Terminus, but it was so much more unexpected and well played out. I'm also not a huge fan of the quote-unquote chemistry they keep trying to push onto us. Let's keep them as friends if you ask me. I did really enjoy Negan's story. He is greatly evolving for the better. I think he is pulling a Eugene and earning the trust so he can sabotage and hit back when they attack. Yeah, going back to what Eugene did to Negan. That's a good idea and good thought.
Yeah, I agree.
I also think he's gonna use Lydia as a ploy to get closer to Alpha, telling her how they bonded.
And I'll just say, Sonia, welcome. You just joined the Facebook group, and welcome. We appreciate that. I'll just give you this. Good to see you on there, and don't be a stranger.
Well, Todd from Ohio says, Taterbug? Laugh out loud. After Eugene told Mystery Girl his name, anyone else want her to say, hi, Eugene, I'm Sherry.
Uh-oh. I cannot resist that one.
That would have been sweet. In the other major plot line, I still say Negan is playing Alpha. But I never realized how much Negan likes to talk. Then when seen up against how quiet the Whisperers need to be. Shh. Big winky face.
Stop there for a minute there. Todd, you never realized that Negan likes to talk? You've been watching the same show? I think that's why his incarceration has been difficult for him, especially like early on, when, like, for example, how he broke down when Maggie went to visit him last season. Yeah, it's torture for him. Yeah. He likes the sound of his own voice. So I can't see him becoming a whisperer. It just doesn't fit his personality.
No, some ulterior motive is going on.
And I love it.
I also watched Silicon Valley, and the actor who plays Sadiq was just on it. I always like when things like that happen.
Yeah, I heard someone else mention that he was on there. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm a couple of seasons behind. I don't currently have HBO, so that is a show that I've watched. I think probably the first 5 or 6 seasons. I don't know. But yeah, I get a kick out of that. So I'm curious to know what character he's playing. And eventually, when I get a chance to catch back up on it, I will watch. All right, next, our last bit of feedback, but it's a pretty long one. We have to split this one up. It's from Glytis from Toronto. She starts off, she says, it doesn't look good for Rosita, especially talking like she did with Eugene on the radio, seeking him out and needing some comforting from an old friend when feeling so poorly while Gabriel is out. That older woman's fate is sealed. She's going to die for sure. I agree. Negan is all-seeing and calculating, manipulating Beta perfectly, goading him and testing him to see how far he could go with all his loud chatter. Beta doesn't stand a chance against Negan's superior cunning and savvy. Negan made sure he was being submissive and portraying the correct amount of groveling displayed, all for Alpha's benefit. Yeah, I would agree. Like, I don't really see Beta being a very cunning. I mean, I think he's being a little more perceptive in some ways than Alpha is being, because I think he does see Negan as a threat, and quite honestly, he should see him as a threat. So, I agree, but in terms of cunning, I don't think it's cunning. It's more like instinct in Beta's on Beta's end. Beta really underestimated Negan. Yes, he did. Beta said Negan was weak, and when Negan managed to survive the Walker onslaught, that is a slight in Alpha's eyes. Negan better watch his back, though, whenever Beta's around, as Beta will now be gunning for him. I agree. Deja vu with Negan's quote-unquote bat, all bloody with Walker guts, with echoes of The Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 1, The Day Will Come When You Won't Be. You didn't have that in your comments, but that's the episode title. Negan sure has guts literally and figuratively. Down to that announcement to Alpha of, Hi, I'm Negan from The Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 16, Last Day on Earth. Eugene's chat with the mystery woman on the radio. Will this be a good or a bad bond to be made? Ah, yes, bonds. Yeah, that fits. Could go either way, but keeping her secret from the rest of the group doesn't bode well, judging from past experiences. I wonder if the Pennsylvania reference is a tease of where she is located, and that is potentially where Rick has gone with that city skyline in that short trailer of the Walking Dead movie depicted to be Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Actually, I think, if I recall, I think that trailer had a skyline of Philadelphia. I remember hearing it was Philadelphia, but Pennsylvania, regardless, that's the same state. Oh, that's a big state. Yeah. So I hadn't thought of that. Good point about the bonds. And I can't see Negan forming a bond with Alpha. Although maybe in some ways, two arch villains, maybe this is like Suicide Squad or something. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, which I've heard people say quite a bit in these days.
Yeah, definitely. She continues on saying, Carol leaving Alexandria reminded me of the prison with that fenced pathway set up they had. I agree. It looked very familiar.
Yeah, I thought so too, actually.
You could see Carol was on a mission, as the last time she made tea and had a food tuck box set up. She left Alexandria in The Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 16, with her hidden machine gun sewn in her jacket sleeve. So Daryl has his work cut out for him when searching for Carol's gun in her bag.
Okay, that's slight correction, Glynis. That was Season 6, Episode 15, where she had the hidden machine gun. That was East. So it's the episode before.
When she shot down those saviors.
Yep. On the road.
I wonder if they'll get anything out of that captured Whisperer. But doubt it, as Lydia was very wild when she was first captured. And there's no Carl relationship this time around. Maybe the captured Whisperer is all part of Alpha's plan to infiltrate Alexandria. It's the two-pronged attack where Gamma is going to target Aaron. Alpha does seem to know all the movements of the survivors, so Daryl and Carol crossing the border will not go unnoticed.
Definitely not.
Nope.
Yeah, two-pronged attack. Gamma and Aaron, I hadn't thought of that, but that's a good point. And I had this in my notes, but I'll bring it up now. Maybe this guy is Delta? Or Epsilon? I don't know. If he's Epsilon, then who's Delta? I don't know. Maybe they're in some other quadrant.
Yeah.
Okay, that probably didn't need a drum roll, but that's a Star Trek reference. Alpha quadrant, beta quadrant, gamma quadrant, delta quadrant. Anyway, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're missing out.
Well, you did say Beta Z before.
Beta Z. Yes.
Out.
Yes, Deanna Troi is a whisperer.
She continues on saying the Whisperers whispering, "Where are they?" Or "Where did they go?" Or words that affect it's sometimes hard to pick up what's being said by the Whisperers at times. When looking for Daryl and Carol, but that reminded me of The Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 6, when Rosita and Eugene hid in the creek and covered themselves with mud, and that's when the Whisperers made their first entrance and entered the fray. That is true. We have some extra notes. I have some. So I'm going to start it off.
So do I. Go ahead.
I find it funny that they have Rosita showing caring for Eugene now. Then he has a party line chat with that lady who is Stephanie in the comic book. A little bit of a spoiler there, but it's kind of different from the comic book since it was Eugene who was originally involved with Rosita, and Sadiq was the father of the baby, as it is in the show. I guess it's the writer's way of him moving on when Rosita is eventually going to die, which pretty much is my prediction.
Yeah, I think all signs are pointing to that, Selena or not.
Yeah.
And fake eyebrows. I really notice it every time she's on. I can't help it. And it's like that effect. There's a name for it. Like when you buy a new car, you keep seeing the new car. The same kind of car, even though you don't see it any more than you used to, you just notice it now. So since I've noticed that she has fake eyebrows, I keep on, like when I'm at the store, I keep on noticing people with fake eyebrows. It's not a great look. I'm just
No.
I'm just telling you, you people that do that. If any listeners, it's not a great look. You don't have to make them like like Brezhnev or something like that. I was watching my wife and I finally got tired of Grey's Anatomy. So last night we started watching from the beginning Breaking Bad, and Walter White's second job there, he's working on a car wash, and the guy that runs the car wash, man, he has the opposite. He's got these these eyebrows that you could practically farm. That's not a good look either. But
No.
yeah, fake eyebrows, not a great thing. It's probably more to do like Whoopi Goldberg and not go with any.
Yeah, true. Or pencil them in.
Well, I don't know. That's the point, though. I don't know. Just make it natural. It works better. Anyway, that's my observations, and I've got to say at this point,
What is this bizarre segue that's happening right now? Can we maybe stay on point?
and if there ever was a topic that deserved Blaine, I think that's it.
Well, I noticed in this episode that Jeffrey Dean Morgan's hair is slightly different than last week's and pretty much the beginning of the season. Definitely a dye job on the top of his head. But I don't remember the shaved sides, though, where you could see the pronounced gray just growing in.
Well, I will say, not to disagree, but I will say that as your hair gets dirtier, it tends to get darker, like even if you have gray. So, I mean, maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. But I kind of noticed it too, but I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. But I'm thinking that's probably what's happening. It's just like oil and dirt that's making his hair look a little darker.
Well, I brought it up before. Dante is a freaky character on the show. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
And we already talked a little bit like the lady caller that Eugene had. Now, we spoke about it in the comics, and this is a spoiler for the comics, so if you guys just want to move ahead a little bit, you can. But Eugene strikes up the same conversation in the comic, but keeps it hidden from everybody. Gets to know this person, and this person's name's Stephanie. And what we eventually find out, this is somebody who's stationed in the Commonwealth. So eventually, he gives up that information, and they make a trek to where the Commonwealth is, and it's a small group led by Michonne, I believe Eugene, and a few others, and you do get to meet along the way the princess. And we've already stated that the princess has been cast.
Right.
And we'll probably see her, I'm thinking, in the second half of the season.
Yeah, that's what I figure as well.
So that's a little bit of information, a little bit of thought on that. Whether or not they use Stephanie in the show and it is part of the Commonwealth, I have a funny feeling it's going to lead them to go that way, and where ends off or ends up will be in the movie if they get there, because my belief is that, Rick is in the Commonwealth somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and just a little bit of my little looking into, because I was a Boy Scout and I remember pit cooking, and that was something that the Indians used, but also the Hawaiians did it too. So the American Indians used this tactic. Hawaiians did that. American Indians did this just to cover their tracks from, obviously cowboys and all that stuff. But basically when they start barbecuing it or put coals or whatnot underneath the animal and they bury it to heat up, it tenderizes the meat and makes it easier to chew and consume. It actually moves the skin away from the body, so it's easier to husk, because the animal could be very gamey. Like when you hunt turkey, the turkey is very gamey and you have to literally boil it to a point to get to where it's tenderized and then overall cook it. In Hawaii, it's called Kahlua. So no, it's not the alcoholic drink, but
spelled differently.
Yeah, exactly. It makes the meat less gamey, like I said, eliminates anyone from smelling it as you cook it because it's in the ground. Plus, easier to cover your tracks if someone is looking for you, because you can easily bury the remains, and plus not have animal scavengers come around the site looking for the remains of it. And my feeling, this is the Whisperer's tactic of covering where they are. They just cover, and they could put leaves or whatever over the where they buried it over to cover their tracks of how they're cooking.
Yeah, and it makes sense too. And yeah, the only thing I thought about was the same thing that Megan mentioned is did they gut the pig before they put it in? Because normally when they do that, they don't cook all the, insides of the pig, like all the,
They would fillet it down and take out the intestines and everything else, and then leave whatever's left.
Right.
And then they would bury that separately.
Right. Do they normally cook the animal hair and all?
Usually the skin, because sometimes the outer laying fat, so you have to peel it away to take it out.
Well, knowing the Whisperers, that's how they roll. They're kind of earthy, so I guess gaminess, hair, probably a little piggy poop that is something that they've had. But onto my notes, I noticed. I'm gonna start with actually something I just wrote down from what you said about Rick being in the, we think, part of the Commonwealth. And I know Gimples mentioned that this the three circles that we've seen has something to do with these three communities, and possibly that one is where Rick is, maybe one is where Maggie is, who knows, and one might be the where the third series is going to be taking place. I don't know. And that's just conjecture. I don't know if any of that's true, but I wonder still how the A or B fits into this. And speaking of A or B, I'm noticing like a couple of the couples that are kind of in this, bond, so to speak. Alpha, Beta, Carol, and Daryl, A, B, C, D. So now we need we had Enid, but she's already dead.
Oh.
Yeah. Getting to some of my other stuff. If you have to wonder about Negan's intentions, one little thing that I have noticed in the past, and I'm noticing it now, it seems to, when you hear a character start using the word walkers, that is an indication that they're part of the good side. And Negan initially, said to Beta, it was at the beginning of Act 1 there, right around the time he mentioned about the going commando, which I thought was really funny. Walker Long Johns. And I thought, okay, if he's saying Walker Long Johns and not, I don't know. Do you remember what they called them on the Saviors?
Can't remember.
Might have been the dead or, dead ones.
Roamers or yeah.
But they definitely didn't call them walkers. So the fact that Negan's calling them walkers, I think is a good indication that he's actually on our side versus, say, Magna, who is still calling them sickos. And we know where her tendencies kind of lie. And, it's funny. We saw her, 2 episodes in a row, and just thinking about her from last week, I'm still annoyed by her, her actions. It's like, I don't get that character. She's just a malcontent for the purpose of being a malcontent. There's like no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah, very different from the actual comic where she was helpful.
Yeah.
And she was more of a leader for her group.
And I'll say,
hi guys, this is Nadia Hilger.
I don't know. There's so like, she's very like exotic looking. I think it's, she's kind of like darker. She's got very dark, like
she's olive skinned.
Olive skin. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just got this exotic look, her eyes and everything. So I guess it kind of fits for her being kind of exotic or mysterious.
Yeah, but she's from New Jersey.
I thought she was from Germany.
No, actually, when I went to FanFest and they had the Walking Dead panel, she says she grew up in New Jersey.
Oh, really? Well, maybe she was born in Germany and
then they moved
raised
here.
Yeah.
But she says for the most of her childhood, and then she still has a place in Jersey too. So for her, it was a long trek to go from, I think it was probably in Secaucus to go to Edison. So
I didn't realize that. And I happened to notice that Michonne has been missing in the last 2 episodes. I don't like that. And the previews, I did not even see her in the previews.
Well, she's expected to be in how many episodes total? I think it's...
Did you hear a number? Because I never heard
I heard a number from somebody, because you get those people who follow the show and stalk.
Oh, we follow the show.
But we don't stalk them in Atlanta. We're in Sonoy. There's a call sheet that people have been trying to grab, and I think they found out that it was going to be 7 episodes or something like that total. So if that's the case, she's been in how many so far?
Well, if that's true, if she were to leave in episode 9, that would fit that she would be in the next episode, because that she missed the 2 episodes she was in. Actually, no, she wasn't in episode 2, was she? Okay, so maybe she leaves sometime in the second half, I guess.
Yeah, and this is the first time they actually filmed the show out of sequence.
Oh, that's right, too, yeah.
So it's kind of hard to tell, but I that was actually something I wanted to ask Greg Nicotero when we were in Atlanta, but I never got a chance to, of how hard was it to film out of sequence, since they were always on a set schedule of filming in sequence. They would do 6 days of a particular episode, or 6 to 8 days straight, or with a break in between on the weekend, and then go on to the next episode, because that way they could easily edit it and get it prepped. So that must have been harder for the editors this time around.
I bet. But at the same time, it makes sense, because like I would think it would save them time to shoot the season. I mean, yeah, there would be certain things that would make it difficult, but like if you've got all the characters there, like let's say they go to Oceanside 3 times. Well, shoot all the Oceanside scenes all together because they don't need to go to that location multiple times, which means, extra expense. And, like even if they have to pay the actors for, multiple episodes for that, they don't have to pay the location shooting, however that works. They don't have to pay them any differently because of how the thing is shot. They basically, I think, get paid by the day or the week or whatever. So there's that. Then the other characters that are, kind of like extras in that, again, probably it makes a lot of sense.
Like, the only thing that they would change is wardrobe. Probably.
Right. Yeah. But like I say, like if they're on location, like it doesn't really matter if they're, in Alexandria or Hilltop because they're always there. I mean, those are pretty much either on set or right by the set adjacent to it. Whereas, going to Oceanside or going, out in the country, like the scenes with, the Whispers and that's like out there somewhere. So they might shoot all those at once. Who knows? All right. Well, anyway, let's move on to news, ratings, and info.
There's a couple weird stories on the news.
All right. So as far as ratings, we can say I was very happy to see this. We're not out of the woods, but The Walking Dead got a 1.05, which of course rounds up to 1.1, which you may see, on some sites, but the site that I go to has multiple decimals. So I use that one. And it's always there earlier. It's called showbuzzdaily.com. That's where I get these from. But the charts are made by me. Anyway, it got a 1.05 in the 18 to 49 with 3.212 million viewers. So it's not up much, at least on the coveted 18 to 49 demographic, which was a 1.03 last week. But it is up, about 126,000. Because last week it got a 3.086 million viewers. So up a little bit. Talking Dead was also up a little bit. Got a 0.38 in the 18 to 49 with 1.230 million viewers. And that is up from 0.36 and 1.164 million. Info about this episode, I didn't really get anything. Just stuff that maybe was on Talking Dead. I was hoping for a lot of information, but didn't really get much because Scott M. Gimple was Scott M. Sick. So he was supposed to be scheduled on Talking Dead. And I'll say, I thought the two of them that were on there were okay on there, like Jamie King and Sinbad. Not having anyone from the show on was kind of disappointing, to say the least. I thought it made the show that much weaker. I did appreciate that Gimple had, written a bunch of stuff down for Hardwick to say, but I still would have appreciated someone, attending in his place. I don't know why they didn't have Angela Kang or, somebody that's in Hollywood, from the writer staff to come in and, sub for him. I don't know. Anyway, some of the things that Gimple said wrote out. Here's one thing that Chris Hardwick said.
But we asked Scott, what is it about Negan that intrigues Alpha? And Scott M. Gimple said, there are two things about Negan that intrigues Alpha. First, she knows he's been held in a cell for years, and she believes that he could be that X factor that she could use against the communities and help her finish this once and for all. The second is Alpha is intrigued by Negan's potential, to use an old-timey term, game, recognize, game. So she sees, Scott's saying she sees what Negan is and she understands. Of course. You don't think so? You don't think so and you think so.
Absolutely. Of course she's a queen.
She fears it.
And here is a clip that I also pulled from Talking Dead I thought was interesting, was about was Samantha Morton talking about Beta.
So there's a scene in episode 6 where Alpha questions Beta and is like, finally time for the Beta to become the Alpha. And I think for her, throughout this season, there's been little moments where he's been really tricky, he's not doing as I've asked, or he's questioning. In the past, I could imagine that they would have hours of conversation whereby they do talk and she comes up with ideas about what they're going to do. But normally, it's kind of, if there's debate, he would do it in a way that was supportive of her idea, but he's being obtrusive all this season. He's being combative, he's being difficult, he's being tricky. And so she doesn't believe it comes from a place of truth, it comes from a place of jealousy. And so she doesn't trust it. She just believes he's jealous. And so when she says, is it finally time for Beta to become the Alpha, she's genuinely saying, do you want it?
That one's interesting because I guess she's inferring that Beta's jealous of her.
Yeah, a little bit.
And like we were saying, we're kind of picking up on him being jealous of Negan. And that's, I think it might be both things. So,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
These are friendships both that are founded on trust, not perfect.
Terry.
Yeah.
Military has a code.
Yeah.
It has a code. Like, if I don't believe in my superior officer, I need to do this or it's going to be crazy for everybody else.
93% say no, he does not want to become the Alpha. Sorry, 7%. Let's talk, I'm in the 7%. This is from Scott M. Gimple on the Alpha-Beta relationship. We asked him, how would you describe the state of Alpha and Beta's relationship? And Scott said, to put it bluntly, the state of their relationship is not perfect. The fact is that Beta only looks up to one person, and now that person has another potential friend and ally. It's very tough for Beta. In many ways, there are parallels between his relationship with Alpha and the state of Carol and Daryl's relationship. These are friendships both that are founded on trust, but now are being tested by an outside factor.
Yeah.
Like I said, the meme.
What's the significance of Carol going rogue and capturing the Whisper? And Scott said, Carol capturing the Whisper says that she had a mission all along and she wasn't being honest. Carol knows Daryl is smart. She knows he suspects she's up to something, but she also knows that because of the bonds they've formed, she is granted a certain amount of trust. They are both aware. She's putting up a facade and so far are both going along with it, but it is making an impact on their relationship for sure.
Remember, Daryl asked her to go. She didn't ask him to go. So
that's the thing. She never planned for him to go.
Oh, we don't need to hear Sinbad talking about. And by the way, listeners, the reason why I'm pulling this is because I didn't have time to get the notes down for this. So I'm just playing the clips. That way I get the same content and I don't have to use my voice. Oh, lovely. Well, I guess that's it because my iPad has decided not to play anymore. So there was something specific I was trying to pull. That was mentioned about the new show. What wasn't mentioned was when it's going to debut. That's what I was hoping to hear Sunday night, but we still don't know that. There was one other thing that I pulled out, something that happened over the week, and that was Chandler Riggs, who isn't he on next week on Talking Dead?
Yes.
Yeah. So apparently he was asked about, comments he made around the time that he was off the show to Scott M. Gimple specifically. And just to paraphrase, he said that like most of what he said, he was just joking. If you knew that, if you follow him, like anytime he's serious, he'll say, "I'm serious." And I guess a lot of that stuff he didn't say he was serious. Of course, he knows that, there was this whole like thing with his dad and that, and he talks about that in comments, but I'll post that article on Facebook. So if you're curious about what he said, basically he said like 95% of anything he said was just in jest, and that he and Scott M. Gimple have a good, relationship, and it was all in jest. Basically what he said. So, all right. So that's it as far as our news. Why don't you tell people how to interact with us?
Sure. Well, we want to encourage you to follow us on Twitter. You can find us at Walking Dead GSM. To submit your theories and feedback, most people post in our designated episode thread on our Facebook group, which would be facebook.com/groups/WalkingDeadGSM. And we'd like to encourage you to use our email address as well, which would be walkingdead@talkthroughmedia.com. Our new feedback form is talkthroughmedia.com/feedback. You could call us at 216-232-6146. Again, that phone number is 216-232-6146. Act now.
Buy one, get one free.
Deadline for next episode is set for our regular day and time, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, Tuesday, November 19th. You could also go to facebook.com/talkthroughmedia and send feedback there.
And that's a great way to recommend us. For whatever reason, they don't let you recommend groups, Facebook groups, but you can recommend pages. So that's a good way to recommend us. Write a review. If whatever podcast client that you have doesn't let you write reviews, you can write a review of us on our, for the network on the Facebook page. Facebook.com/talkthroughmedia, as we mentioned. One of the best ways you can support us is by supporting our new Patreon. Of course, a couple weeks back, we had a call-in show with several different podcasters, but LT and Alex were there. And we had a good time talking about Walker Stalker Con. And we'd like to, you can still, sign up now and you'd have access to that and any additional shows that we do coming up. And Mark and I, we're probably going to do one pretty soon. We have to figure out when and what, but we'll announce that, as the time comes. We've been dealing with the technical issues on the site, so we've kind of till we resolve some of the stuff, we have to put other call-in shows on hold. But we will be doing them soon. And we want to thank our Patreon supporters: Steve Brown, Alex Baelish, and Lawrence Todd. And another way you can help us is by sharing our posts on Facebook and Twitter when we post them, or tell a friend. And the other thing I'll say is remember that we have a YouTube presence now. We post all our episodes on YouTube. You may be listening to us on YouTube. Just look for Talk Through Media, and that's our channel. Just search for Talk Through Media, and you'll find that all new episodes are going up there. And then as time permits, we will be adding the archives to YouTube as well. So subscribe to us in Apple Podcasts and any podcast client of your choice. That way you will get episodes, provided that our feeds are working properly. And that was a bit of a setback the last couple of days when we realized that. But going forward, are subscribing to us, the feeds should work And if they don't, please let us know. Don't assume that if you don't get an episode that we haven't released one. So just keep that in mind. If you're in Apple Podcasts or any podcast clients that do allow you to place a review, like Stitcher, for example, we had an issue with Stitcher. That was one of the sites or one of the apps that was causing problems, but we've fixed that now. Anyway, for Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or what have you, if they have a chance to rate us or review us, you could help other people find us by giving us a rating review. But like I said earlier, word of mouth is the best way for us to get new listeners. So if you have a friend that watches The Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead, let them know about us and give them a little listen. Maybe they'll join on as well. I think a lot of our new listeners have come that way recently. It's been kind of like a Fabergé organic shampoo. It's an old commercial if you don't recognize the reference, listeners. It's like, he tells two friends, and so on, and so on, and so on. Yeah. So, and we've mentioned that the new Star Trek Picard cast is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It has just been added to Stitcher, I believe. And we're propagating it more as we're dealing with our other issues with the feeds. We're actually adding our new feeds, and we're going to have, like I said, a split Fear the Walking Dead talk through feed with a Walking Dead talk through only feed. Just those are ways for us to get our stuff out there, and then we already have the talk through media feed. So lots of ways of finding us. And that's we do still owe an episode of the Star Trek Discovery podcast for the last short trek, which was titled The Trouble with Edward. We just haven't had a chance to record that episode, but we'll have another short trek which is coming out on Thursday. So we've got 2 episodes soon that we'll be owing. So we'll definitely be having some content on there. And we'll probably do an episode of Picard, I don't know, probably in the next month. So all that. Mark, what about you?
Well, I'd like to everybody to listen to Panels to Pixels, and you can find us on the Next Level Radio Podcast Network. So right now, Steve and I are doing The Watchmen this season, and it's coming along great. So we're all having a good time talking about that. So if you guys want to shit on over there and listen to us and send some
Like
feedback,
you said, shit on over there.
Shoot on over, or don't poop on over. But come on over and listen to us there and send some feedback if you're interested. And if you really want to, just like how we have a YouTube for Walking Dead Talk Through and all the other stuff that's here on this network, we do that as well. So all you have to do is do a search for Panels to Pixels podcast, and you can see that and hear it.
Yeah, and for that matter, Mark and Steve could use some reviews on Apple Podcasts too.
Yeah, we don't have any.
Because one of them is from Steve before he became your co-host. Yeah. All right, our next episode is season 10, episode 7, which is titled Open Your Eyes. It is written by a co-executive producer, and I was wondering when he was going to finally do an episode this season, because I've seen him in the credits. Corey Reed, and is directed by Who's Naked?
No, Who's Deanna?
Who's Deanna? Well, he said both. He said both. Michael Cudlitz, of course, played Abraham. The description, and this is, I should mention, that's his second episode this season. He did Silence of Whisperers. The description is as follows. Carol pushes boundaries that make Daryl uncomfortable.
It's a trap!
I almost wanted to play
New people. I like new people.
Alpha and Beta have reservations about someone. Gee, I wonder who that is. All right, until next time, I'm Brian.
And I'm Mark.
This is the Walking Dead Talk Through.
Good night, everybody.